Hey guys, welcome back to Mondays at the Museum. I'm Carrie and I'm here at the Anna Bemis Palmer Museum in York, Nebraska. So for today's video, I'm going to tell you a story about a guy named David Erb. So David Erb was born November 28th, 1923, aka 3 days from now, but 101 years back, in Hall County, but he was raised in Charleston, Nebraska. So for those of you that don't know, Charleston, Nebraska was once a thriving community, a part of York County, which is why we're talking about him today, but is now a ghost town, which is just a really interesting story. So Erb went on to be a jockey and a trainer of professional racehorses, and he actually started riding as a young boy, competing in tracks all around Nebraska, and this was approximately 1938. He moved to California in the late 1930s to 1940s to expand his horizons a bit, and during this time he rode a lot of different horses, including Munchausen. Here's a picture of him with Munchausen and Doris Day. So you can see him standing with Doris Day. It says it's in 1954 at the Primer Stakes at Arlington Park. So, like I said, at this time, he's in the California area. He is riding all sorts of horses, but specifically June 11th, 1955, it's at the Californian Stakes, and this is at Hollywood Park Racetrack. He filled in for a suspended rider named Willie Shoemaker. He was on a 5-day suspension. I'm not sure exactly what the reason was for, but Erb filled in, and aboard a 3-year-old colt named Swaps, I love horse name, this is great, 3-year-old colt named Swaps, he beat a world record time for a mile and a 16th on dirt. His time was 1:40 and 2/5 for the mile and 16th on dirt. And here is actually a picture of the world record that he has. So this is courtesy of an Equestrian magazine. Say that 3 times fast. That I'm going to be quoting a lot in the future here. So you can see June 11th, 1955, world record time. So later in that year, he started riding a horse named Swoon Sun. Love horse names. It said that he rode this horse for all except one of his 22 career stake wins. So he was a pretty accomplished rider. During this time, he competed mostly in Chicago and Kentucky. However, in 1956, it was on a colt named Needles, I know, another great horse name, that he won the Kentucky Derby, and he actually had to rally from behind because at one point he was in 16th. Now, Erb grew up wanting to win the Kentucky Derby, which I'm sure all horse racing professionals want to win the Kentucky Derby, but he was able to make his dream come true. He's actually quoted as saying, "I wanted to win the Kentucky Derby. I'm one of the lucky ones. I had a great horse that day." Needles, because I'm just so fascinated with horse names. I don't know a lot about horse racing. I did a lot of research before I did this video, and aside from the hats at the Kentucky Derby, of course, which are always fascinating, but just the horse names really fascinated me. So Needles, like why? So he was named due to the amount of shots that the horse got. Apparently it was quite sickly as a foal, but then it rebounded, so yay for Needles. Real true underdog story there. So Needles and Erb, they won the Kentucky Derby in 1956, and then they went on to win the Belmont Stakes, which is also another big race there. However, they narrowly missed out on the Preakness, so they got second in the Preakness, which means that he missed out on winning the American Triple Crown. But here is a photo of Erb and Needles after their Kentucky Derby win. So again, this took place in 1956. You can see him aboard the horse with all the roses. So it's said that at the end of 1956, Needles was voted champion amongst 3-year-old colts, which is very exciting. And in their time together, Erb and Needles, they had 11 races. He won 5 of those. He got second 3 times. He had 1 third-place finish, and then he didn't finish in the rest. But Needles was voted into the Hall of Fame in 2000, which is just really cool. Erb retired from being a jockey in 1960, and he moved on to training horses, and he worked for a man named Roger Wilson. In 1963, one of his colts, Hurry to Market, another great name, was voted American co-champion for 2-year-old colts for that year. In 1972, Erb was entered into the Nebraska Racing Hall of Fame, which is a big deal for us around here. And he officially retired from all racing and training in 1988 and moved to a farm in New York. For those of you wondering, yes, he did take a horse with him. It was a gray horse named Bill, who loved the farm. So his handprint and signature, this is Herb's, not Bill's. Herb's handprint and signature was added to a monument. It's called Gallop to Glory, and it's a display at the Galt House Hotel in Louisville in 2008. Now this is really cool. I have to show you a picture of this. So these photos are courtesy of Yelp, but check this out. So there's got the horse there, and then when you look even closer, you see the handprints and the roses. Tribute to Kentucky Derby winners. Apparently, that is not a very well-known display because it is on the reverse side of the hotel. So if anyone is there and sees it, please take a picture of Herb's handprints and send it to me because I would love to see that. Louisville, Kentucky. One of the items that we have relating to Dave in our collection is this magazine here, Equicurian. That's backwards to you, but I mean, even frontwards, it's hard to say. So it's a magazine from 2013. In it, he says that he never broke a bone in his time as a jockey. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about horse racing. I had to do a lot of research to understand most of the terminology and jargon in this thing. But so there was actually this study done in Maryland, and it's quoted as saying that riders average 1.1 injuries per fall, right? Because you get bucked off a lot, and the average fall is every 4.6 races. So basically you get a lot of soft tissue injuries, but then fractures are right after that. So to the fact that he never broke a bone in his entire 22 years of being a jockey, not like a trainer, but as a jockey, is just quite the feat. So Dave Herb passed away on November 22nd, 2019 at the age of 95. He was only a week shy of turning 96. And that is just a very little bit about what was a very big life. I just love that this kid from rural Nebraska can go and just have this dream of winning a Kentucky Derby, and then he does it. He pulls it off. He didn't let anybody stop him, and that's just so cool. Dave is just one person that's featured in our Charleston section here in the History of York County display. If you want to see the rest of the Charleston section, including a wedding dress from 1909, which is really cool, make sure to swing by before the end of February. This History of York County display is up until February 28th. Again, it is laid out like a map of York County, and so for those of you that want to see it, like I said, swing by. Our regular open hours are Tuesdays through Fridays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., but if you can't make it then, next Thursday, aka December 5th, we will be open until 8 o'clock, so make sure to swing by on December 5th. We hope to see you there.